It is distance learning day today and tomorrow, so I'm especially grateful for the time that our educators are able to give to us today. And joining us now is the school counsellor at Horizon International School, Coral Leach. We are exploring the topic of empathy today, but of course we have to talk about distance learning and what is going on. Coral, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I'm relieved to be here and not at home navigating seesaw with my 7-year-old, because there were some tears earlier, and there's been trying to keep the girls separate, and there's been, she ruined this recording for me, and I don't want to do Arabic, and I've got my iPad, can I just play a bit of Toca Boca or Roblox until my next Zoom? No, you can't. No, you can't, because you don't normally have an iPad at 10 o'clock on a Thursday. So you've got your iPad for work, and then it's going away. The struggle is real, Coral. The struggle is real.
It definitely is. I feel for you there. Talking about empathy, I really empathise with you in that situation.
Thank you. Nice segue. I appreciate that. But actually, before we get on to empathy, because I want to get your take, actually, because the distance learning, I mean, I've got younger kids. They're 7 and 9. A couple of days, or a day and a half even, because it's Friday, it's not the end of the world. But for older kids, I did immediately think, and I've got a friend who's head of secondary at a school here in Dubai, there's exams going on right now. So you know, you as a school counsellor, when you are looking after especially those older children about their next steps, what does that actually mean? What's been happening in that space?
It's definitely a challenge, and it's obviously one that we couldn't have predicted. I think the teachers, the students are absolute credit to themselves in terms of the dedication that they're putting towards it and how they're really powering ahead. Teachers are putting in extra time, students are really committing to it. So I'd say that overall, I think they're really adapting well to such a tricky situation. And it's just supporting students to manage that extra bit of stress that, of course, we didn't anticipate in terms of not having as much time face-to-face in school to call on your teachers. But as I say, teachers are really dedicating their time and their commitment over towards students to make sure that they're still prepared, they've got everything they need. So we're hoping it shouldn't affect anything too badly. Students are doing a great job at powering through.
It has been a kind of a disruptive time, I think, in terms of routine and learning. You know, obviously we had Ramadan hours, and then it was Eid, and then we came back and we had floods, and then these 2 days. So as you say, it's been really, really challenging for teachers, definitely, for students, absolutely, and parents trying to, you know, emotionally regulate what is a very, very stressful time with some other variables thrown into the mix. So yeah, credit to you all. Coral, I want to understand, what does a school counsellor do? Would you mind explaining a little bit about, I don't want to say a typical day because I'm sure you haven't got one, but some of, you know, your favourite things about the job and the key roles and responsibilities, especially obviously given your space at Horizon International.
Yeah, definitely. So there's usually kind of 2 different types of school counsellors that you can get. So you can get school counsellors that are more guidance-based, which is more down that career prospect, university, down that kind of route. And you can get counsellors that are more emotional-based. So that is more so where I fall in it. Of course, I do a little bit of both. But the most of my role kind of falls in emotional well-being, social well-being. So within my role, I run one-to-one school counselling sessions with children that struggle with different emotional or social difficulties. I run resilience groups with various year groups throughout the school, and then alongside that I support with the whole school wellbeing, so everything that we do as a whole to support children, raise awareness, our awareness weeks, things like neurodiversity week, children's mental health week. So I assist with all the runnings of those too. So it's a little bit of everything, and of course being the school counsellor also means that I have to consider our staff, so I'm always there for our staff and our teachers as well.
That is a lot. You must be taking on a lot as well. And I asked this to psychologists quite a bit in terms of, you know, how do you protect your own energy? You know, how do you not get, you know, caught up in some of the trickier moments and trickier conversations? Is that something you're quite conscious of?
Yeah, definitely. I think you always have to be when you're dealing with people that are really struggling emotionally, especially within a school. I kind of never know what I'm going to get. You never know what somebody's going to walk through the door with. You never know what they've experienced before. And especially working in an international school, we have so many different nationalities. We have so many children with so many different backgrounds and experiences that are really tricky and are really hard. And sometimes it can be really hard to listen to what people have been through. But I'm really passionate about being able to try and make a change and support. I've worked with children and I've worked with adults. And I find that with children, I'm really here to try and make a difference so that then when they are an adult, things are maybe a little bit easier for them. So that rewarding side of the role really, I guess, keeps me going. But you're right in terms of protecting your energy and managing what comes through the door. I think it really focuses on looking after my own well-being, making sure I take that time out for myself, trying to keep that work-life balance wherever you can, so that it becomes manageable and you can show up to work with that full sense of being ready for it and having a full capability to be able to be compassionate towards the students that need me.
Can you imagine if you were a massive hypocrite and you were always absolutely knackered and really stressed and telling people how to work on their own well-being? So, well said. Good to hear. When you're talking about what's coming through the door, Coral, what is coming through the door? What are some of the common challenges, certainly emotional, that are facing Dubai students today?
It completely varies, really. So I'd say more so with the younger children, it's more kind of trying to understand their emotions. So it's more where they have been kind of maybe taken off guard or they're overwhelmed quite a lot, or sometimes difficulties with anger, and it's just purely on the basis of they don't really know how to manage it. I don't really know what this is. I just know that I feel this way and I need to get it out. So with younger children, I'd say it's a lot more kind of just being overwhelmed in so many different situations and not knowing how to deal with it. With older students, we have a lot more, of course, friendship difficulties as our teenagers grow up and try and socialise in different circles, try and figure out who they are in the world, what they want from life, where they fit. It's a really tricky time, so we have a lot of difficulties come around that aspect. But then we also do get the stresses of exams and finding routines and worrying about futures. There's a lot of kind of common themes that come through it. But I'd say overall the key theme is that children are overwhelmed just in different experiences and different ways. That feeling of just being overwhelmed is probably the most common thing that comes through the door.
Oh, they're not alone. I think that's a generational, goes all the way up. With coming to see the school counsellor, I was talking to my kids about it the other day because there's a school counsellor, I think, in most, if not all, schools right now. And I was kind of, I didn't use the word stigma because they wouldn't know what that means, but I was trying to get an understanding of, do you know who to go to, and how would that feel? Would you be okay about doing that? What's in place? And they were talking about, you can go and see, your class rep, and then they might speak to a school counsellor. Do you think there is a bit of a stigma attached to going to see someone such as yourself, and who might, a kid that might have some anger issues or might be trying to work through things on a one-off or a regular basis?
Yeah, I think it's still something that is a little bit tricky, purely because I guess it's kind of an evolving conversation, still, mental health, isn't it? And especially for children. And when we think to the children, kind of the ages that we're dealing with now and the generation of their parents, it wasn't something that was discussed. It's not something that has ever really been actively talked about. It maybe even at some points quite frowned upon. So I think we have to kind of bear that in mind when we're thinking about how children might feel about accessing a school counsellor based on what they might know from whether it's talked about at home or whether it's still something that's quite tough to approach in the household. So I think there is still always a little bit of stigma around things that we are working through, but I would say this is the most positive I've ever seen it. Like, I really don't have any issues with children coming to my door, and because I'm regularly around school, children see me quite a lot. I pop into classes so they kind of know who I am. I do the assemblies, so I guess me being more present in other ways except from just the one-to-one counselling can really support with abolishing that stigma within the school, to show that I am accessible and to normalise talking about feeling overwhelmed, feeling angry, feeling upset.
Just normalise having someone to talk to. I mean, that is an awful lot of adults I know would just be they get so much out of having someone who's impartial, who hasn't got an agenda, who's got and has made the time to spend and listen to you. I think it's crucial, and to have that, as you say, normalised from childhood means that hopefully they, as they get older, it becomes easier to talk to partners, to friends, to professionals if it's needed. I think it's absolutely crucial. We've got Coral Leach with us today. She's a school counsellor at Horizon International School. We are going to be talking about empathy next. How does it help with everyday interactions and growth amongst the students? And there's Empathy Week as well. So there's some big issues there: discrimination, bullying. So we'd love to hear from you. Then, if you've got any questions for Coral, or perhaps want to share what's happening in your life, any questions or concerns, whether it's a book recommendation you want to share, you can get us on 4001. You've got the app, of course, and you've got the WhatsApp too, which is 048715500. We are going to hop on over now and catch up with Milani. She's got the latest on your roads. It is 4:46.
To buy on afternoons with Helen Farmer.
With Ranches Primary School, a nurturing community school and nursery committed to holistic education in the heart of Arabian Ranches too.
Joining us live on the line, Coral Leach, the school counsellor at Horizon International School. We've been talking a little bit about the role and normalising some difficult conversations with kids, and our topic of the hour is empathy. And you even have an Empathy Week. Coral, tell us about why you're placing such importance on this soft skill. I guess it is a skill. It's something you can learn and practice. What happens and how do you approach it?
So Empathy Week is something that we've taken that is run in the UK, and it's been really successful across schools. And as you say, it is a soft skill, and we're teaching students so much throughout school. I think empathy is a really big part of that, but it's maybe not something that we always kind of outline that empathy is included in, but I do think it's embedded in things that schools are already doing anyway. So kind of focusing this week is to, I guess, raise the awareness of the skill itself and what that means, and to raise a bit more of an understanding towards it. So it's gone really well so far, and we're really, really happy at how engaged the students have been with the activities and the way we ran it. So we were lucky enough to take some talks from the Empathy Week that was being run in the UK, and one of the talks that we used with our secondary students was from a young lady who experienced fibromyalgia throughout her school journey, and she talked about it after now leaving school, and talked about how it would have been a lot more helpful if people were more empathetic towards her situation. And I think as we think about how students interact, how students face different pressures within school, if empathy is a key skill that they're able to demonstrate, it will just create hopefully a bit more of a helpful environment for everybody, so that everybody can feel a little bit more comfortable and feel relaxed around the people that they spend their time with, knowing that they will be empathetic towards whatever situation they're in, whatever they're experiencing, and have people to turn to. So that's the reason that we kind of taken that focus on Empathy Week, and really pushed for drawing the awareness to the word of empathy and how we use that in itself.
We were chatting earlier with Dr. Chris Willard, who's a psychologist, amazing author as well, and he was talking about things you can do to teach empathy. And some of them were really unexpected, from reading books and pointing to a character and saying, what to think. I think they might be feeling too... naming feelings, attaching appropriate emotions and words, but also playing games as well. And I wondered if there's anything that you think could be quite useful for parents to continue some of the work that's happening in the classroom. And modelling behaviour, obviously a really, really crucial one as well, as Hayley Lamb mentioned earlier. But anything else come to mind, Coral?
Yeah, so there's actually a really good board game that I use within groups within school, and it was actually created by psychologists in Dubai from the Lighthouse Arabia, and it's called the Smart Heart game, and it is an incredible board game that is all focused on building emotionally intelligent children. One of the things I really like about the board game is that it has these kind of situation cards, and it will just be a picture of something. Usually one character is either having like a sad face or an angry face, like he's displaying some sort of an emotion. And when it's your turn, if you fall on to take one of those cards, you have to create a story about what's happening in that picture. And it really helps children to kind of use their imagination to apply it to emotions, and to think about what emotion is that person feeling? What does it look like it's happening? And how would that link up to how they're feeling? So it's a really great way to build that emotional intelligence. And again, if we think about then the longevity of the skill of empathy, if you're able to understand how different emotions and different situations might connect together, it'll be a lot easier for you to be empathetic towards somebody else, and just to demonstrate empathy in a whole, not only with the compassion towards yourself, but those around you as well. I would hugely recommend the Smart Heart board game. You can buy it from the Lighthouse Arabia directly, and it's incredible to use with any children.
What a great recommendation. I'm just on the website now, smartheartboardgame.com, children aged 4 to 11. And I think it's something, as you say, as a family, start having these conversations. Thank you, Coral, for your time. Really, really appreciate it. I hope the next few days are fine for you and it's back to normal on Monday. Wishing you a lovely weekend ahead. Coral Leach speaking to us from Horizon International School. That's it from me, heading over to get the latest from the headline.